This video is about my church visit number 2, and for this church visit, I stayed within the denomination, but I went to a different church than I normally attend, and I noticed something about their technology that was really cool. It was really simple. Like a lot of churches today that you go to try to go all out. They try to have big lights everywhere, and they try to, emphasize with 15 different types of microphones and monitors and speakers. But it seemed like this church's technology was really simple. Like they didn't want the technology to get in the way of the message that they had. They had their typical microphones. They had, from what I saw, they had at least one handheld microphone, and then they had some other microphones that were attached to the cords, and then the pastor had a lapel mic on, and there were also choir mics. There wasn't a choir the particular Sunday that we went, but there were choir mics that would be able to pick up the overall sound of the choir. So it was pretty simple, and from what we saw, there was a projector, and it was hanging from the ceiling, and it projected the words to the songs and the scripture onto a screen that was just right in front of it. The screen sat on the floor, and it was kind of cool because Raymond and I went and we talked to the sound guy after, and we just kind of asked him like if it was a hard thing for him to do and if the system was kind of complicated, and the guy kind of straight up told us that it wasn't a complicated system in the way that they ran things with their microphones, and it was just very simple and straightforward. The only instruments that they really used for worship were a piano, and I believe it might have actually been a second piano. At first I was going to say organ, but now that I think about it, it was the second piano. So they used 2 pianos, and then they used a clarinet and a flute, which was really cool because those aren't really typical instruments that you normally see during a worship service. So I thought this doesn't really have to do with technology, but it was cool that, they were inviting people with different types of gifts, musical gifts, to be a part of the worship team. But anyway, back to technology. The only thing about having the flute and the clarinet was it didn't seem like the flute and the clarinet were actually mic'd, and they were actually closer to the back of the stage because it was a fairly big platform, and the 2 pianos were on the side, and the flute and the clarinet were kind of shoved to the back, and you really couldn't hear the flute and the clarinet. It was kind of just like every now and then you heard a little bit of them if the piano got quiet, but overall you couldn't hear them. And I know me personally, who I really, when it comes to music, I like to take in all the elements of it, the words, the worship, the just the overall feeling that music brings. And I love to hear the different elements of the team, and not hearing the clarinet and the flute, it didn't disrupt my worship experience, but I just thought it would have been really cool if I could hear them better. So it wasn't necessarily like a flaw, or it didn't really get in the way, but it would have been cool to hear them more. Overall, like I said, it was simple. I didn't feel like there was much room for technology to get in the way. The projector system was run consistently, and the slides were kept up, and the microphones all seemed to play their part. The worship leader was the only one with the handheld mic, which was kind of cool because it kind of gave him room to kind of move around a little bit. And then the other members of the worship team had the microphones with cords, and so there wasn't much room for technology to get in the way in the room. They didn't seem to have any problems, and everybody was heard all right, and there were a couple speakers and monitors that were set up, but I mean, overall, the service technology-wise went very smoothly, and I I really enjoyed it. When I was checking out their website, though, that's kind of what threw me off. I was really surprised because I enjoyed going to the church and I enjoyed meeting the people, and there were a lot of really nice people at the church, and there was, the church had a great, mission, and it had, from what the pastor was talking about, just this like, well, at least the pastor had a drive to want to see Christ be in his congregation, but also in the world. I mean, I can't say that about the whole congregation because I didn't talk to all of them, but the pastor just seemed to have this passion. And when I went to the website, I was really thrown off because it's just a very basic website. Like, it just seemed like, it might have been one of those free offer websites, which is cool. But it was so boring, I guess I should say. There was maybe one picture of the outside of the church. There were also very few words. Like, I don't feel like I got much from looking at the website. I felt like there was not much information there, so that I didn't really learn anything about it before I would walk into the building. And I went to one of the pages with the staff, and the only thing that was written there was staff information to come. And I was kind of thrown off by that because I'm like, I would want to know more about the staff than I would want to know about a lot of other things. I would want to know what the pastor is like, or who the pastor even is. And it just kind of threw me off. And then also a lot of the information on there wasn't updated. And that kind of threw me off too, because there was something from like a week or two that had already passed. And all I kept thinking is, well, I would have loved to gone to that event if I would have checked the website sooner. And so it was kind of sad because the church and the website had two different things. So the medium to the message would have gotten in the way. If I would have seen that website, it probably wouldn't have excited me so much to go to the church, which is kind of sad that, I have to rely on technology to do that to me in the first place. But I mean, there was nothing exciting about the website, and it kind of just, I don't know, I would have liked to see more. However, like I said, going to the church service was really great. And I think the only thing, if I would suggest anything, would probably be the website and maybe microphones on a couple of instruments. But overall, I really liked the simplicity of it because I think that helped for the technology to not get in the way. And overall, I would say it was a good time, and I would totally go back. I enjoyed hearing the message and what the pastor had to say that day, and it's definitely an experience that I would do again. And I'm really glad that I was not distracted by the technology like I have been at other churches, and that it was just very much simple like it used to be. And so I enjoyed it. So thank you for listening to me.